7 nights, 7 churches in mid-December, and one man who'll be spending a week of rough sleeping for charity. From the 12th to the 18th of December, Mike Sheil will spend the long, cold winter nights raising funds to combat youth homelessness in Oxfordshire. And Mike joins me now. Mike, good morning to you.
Good morning, and thank you very much indeed for inviting me onto your programme.
Well, it's an absolute pleasure, actually. You didn't want to make things easier for yourself, did you, doing this for 7 nights in mid-December?
Well, as they say, no pain, no gain.
Why did you want to do this? I mean, this is something that you want to highlight. You're doing it for good reason.
Yes, I just think that, the last 2 years have been very tough on young people. Those are finishing school and entering jobs. And in rural areas, we know about the problems of inner city children, but it's not very much talked about in rural areas like Oxfordshire.
I mean, it's true because we do talk about, homelessness, rough sleeping in the city, because it's there in front of us. We see it, but actually it's much more hidden then in rural parts of not only our county, of course, but it's a UK-wide problem, isn't it? But we don't talk about it. Why is that?
I just think it's one of those things that's forgotten about. It's there are so many other things going on in people's lives, and they forget about it. And the fact is that here in Oxfordshire, the number of children that go into care has gone up by 80% in the last 10 years. And as we all know, social care budgets are under pressure. And one of the problems that young people face is that when they get to the age of 18, and if they're in care, they are then literally, that's it. That's the end of care at 18. And it's then a very tough struggle for them. You can imagine 18-year-olds going out into the world, trying to find work, trying to find somewhere to live.
Yeah, well, I mean, life is incredibly difficult to navigate as it is anyway,
yes.
But, particularly now. And, if we mention the pandemic, I mean, all the problems for young people that you've mentioned already, the pandemic surely has exacerbated.
Oh, yes, I think because, young people have been isolated. There are the much talked about pressures of social media and things like that. So really, this project is to in support of 2 local charities that actually directly aimed at this sort of age group of 15 to 21-year-olds.
Yeah. So let's just hear more about, the charities actually that you're highlighting by doing 7 nights in mid-December and 7 churchyards. And we're talking about the sort of significance of the churchyards as well, because, that it's all very well thought out. But what about the charities actually that you are raising funds for so they can continue doing their brilliant work?
Well, they're actually targeted. Mark Beard, who runs Beard Construction, who this big construction company who restored the Ashmolean, and they have a charitable foundation. And next year, Mark's going to be the High Sheriff of Oxfordshire. And he's targeting 2 charities. One's called Aspire Oxford, and the other is called YoCO. Aspire seeks out to rehouse young people, provide them with housing, literally sheltered housing. So they're actually encouraged to convert houses into multiple occupancy, and they each have a room, and there'll be a sort of a manager to look after them. And YoCO is really looking to work with children, young people in school, maybe lacking in confidence, but to give them opportunities to go out and do things, and they work with a charity in Africa. So it really is to try and encourage young people to find a role in life.
It's going to be pretty isolating, I would imagine, sleeping rough. I mean, have you thought about all of that?
Well, someone did much about the tombstones falling on my head, but apart from that, no, I'm fine. I've done a lot of mountaineering in my time, so I am used to sort of sleeping out in a tent and things like that, and I do have a good sleeping bag, but a local supermarket's going to sponsor me with some cardboard boxes to lie on, and I've got a big canvas sheet to go over the top, which I'll drape round a tombstone, and I'll sleep under that.
Yeah, it doesn't seem very much, but actually you're being very realistic about all this, aren't you? Because actually, if you are sleeping rough, generally you don't have a lot.
Absolutely. This is it. This is what I want to try and make people aware of. There are. I'm lucky. I've got a good sleeping bag, but there are people out there who basically will be sleeping under whatever it is they've managed to sort of beg or borrow.
Yeah. Mike, you've spent your life, I suppose, highlighting issues, and actually, many issues that affect young people, because actually your career took you to, all over the world, in fact. You were a career-long photographer, weren't you?
Yes, I was very lucky. I was able to pursue my dream of being a photographer, and people actually paid me to go and take pictures. So, what wasn't there to like about that?
But also highlight people's plights. That's something else that you did as a photographer. You told stories with pictures.
Well, this is it. I mean, to me, this is what a photograph is all about. It is actually, I mean, photography is an international language. Anybody can understand it. And this is the great moving thing about photography, is you really can tell a story which translates it around the world.
You won a World Press Photo Award for work that you did in West Africa.
Yes, I was commissioned by Anti-Slavery International to highlight the problem of child trafficking in West Africa.
Clearly, all the work that you've done actually as a photographer has changed your life, because actually that has it's sort of concentrated your focus, hasn't it, on actually wanting to do what you can to help young people. And actually what you're doing in mid-December is very, very much a part of that. And I did mention that you're going to be doing this in churchyards, 7 different churchyards, in fact, in a rural part of Oxfordshire. So tell us about the churchyards in which you will be calling, well, a bedroom, I suppose, for 7 nights in mid-December.
Well, it's quite simple. I mean, the parish that I live in, well, it's now called a benefice, but it actually has 7 churches as part of that benefice. So, 7 churches, 7 nights. It just seemed to be a natural fit, if you like, to do it that way. And I've had tremendous support from the local vicar and the church wardens, and even the bishop of Dorchester's getting involved at one stage. So, it's fantastic, the support that I'm getting. And to me, it's appropriate to be in a churchyard because, churches throughout history have been places of sort of refuge in times of trouble.